Night edition of Forever Bristol City podcast. The final score at the Hawthorns, it finished West Brom 2, City 0. Not entirely unexpected, the result. I'll hold my hands up now and say I haven't seen 1 minute of the action, so I'm going to be quizzing Mark and Ian, who have. And it's going to be a slightly shorter edition than normal as well, because it's my birthday weekend and I'm recording it from a hotel just in Alderley Edge. So no, I'm not having dinner with Wayne Rooney or anything like that, but that's where I am. What can we say? I was actually driving past the Hawthorns at just after 2:25, and I thought, shall I get out and maybe take a detour? And I thought that wouldn't have been conducive for harmonious relationships for the rest of the weekend. So I carried on driving, and here we are. Ian, your thoughts? I mean, in 30 seconds, as we normally do. Losing at West Brom, they'd won 6 out of their last 7 at home. It's going to be a tough ask anyway. Did we put in a performance today? You first, Ian.
Apart from the last 20 minutes, I'd say no, we didn't. It was fairly even, Stephen, cagey in the first half. Conway had a couple of decent chances. But one particularly when he went through on his left foot and the keeper saved it. But after that, we started the second half sluggishly. They got a goal. And then when we should have made our substitutions that we made later on, because we woke ourselves up later on and we looked more dangerous, it was too late and the game was gone. So I've got to be critical of the timing of the substitutions. And I think the way we play, as one of the West Brom summariser said, well, I had to switch off in the end, because I mean I don't mind somebody being more on one side than the other, but this bloke was so biased it was unbelievable. But as he said, you can't really see that there's a plan and or a way of playing. We didn't press, we didn't sit in, and I'd have liked to have seen us play like we did for the last 20 minutes. Now, okay, if we'd have lost 4-2, okay, at least we'd have gone down fighting. But we didn't do that. And I just think Liam Manning and his coaching staff need to have a really serious look. Really serious look at what they do. I think our next game's against Leicester, isn't it?
Well, it is. Talking about the coaching staff, talking about the coaching.
Needs to have a real serious think about how we line up, how we play, because it's getting to the point where you just think, well, it's more of the same. But overall, and I'll make this point and I'll get out of the way, I expect our injury-prone and inconsistent squad to be injury-prone and inconsistent until two things happen. We get there, the medical in that they solve the problem if they can, because no one else has been able to. And they give, if Liam Manning's their man and they've got a decision to make, because he was 4 or 5 months ago, if he's their man, they need to fund what he needs. And if they don't, they may as well get rid and bring in somebody else. It's as simple as that, because I've seen the last 4 managers, and apart from one who had cash thrown at him like it was going out of fashion, we've averaged 15th place finish. Yeah. And that's where we are.
I think we're going to struggle to do that 15th finish this season, and even emulate the 15 wins a season. If we can beat it, we got to win 3 out of the last 8, and on current form, that's highly unlikely. Mark, if you look at the stats today, we had 46% possession, 10 shots, 5 on target. Wasn't a bad game, was it? I mean, the forums are pretty toxic at the moment. I listened to Matt Withers in his car driving back from West Brom. He said we played well until we conceded just before and after half time and lost the game. But and I've listened to Liam Manning's interview as well. Well, what about when you're not scoring and coming back after you've gone 2-0 down? What were your thoughts today, Mark?
Well, I've started being able to watch it from about half an hour in because the feed wasn't very good. So I used the feed. I was listening to it on the radio, and City frustrated West Brom for the first half an hour without looking threatening. Tommy Conway had two decent chances. The second one, he should have hit it over the keeper. The keeper came out and it went straight into his chest. So we could have been 1-0 up. And then we gave away an awful goal just before half time when we probably had 7 men behind the ball and 1 man on the edge, but we still let them work it across and scoring a goal that was awful to concede. And then one straight after half time. We competed well, but only really when the substitutions were made. So we went for it, but we had the same problem when we get the ball into the final third. And this, God, they say the same thing every week. Must drive people nuts. We don't look like scoring. Our best chances really are from set pieces, 2 headers that hit the bar. But West Brom were worthy winners. It was like the opposite, the Olympic slogan for us. You know, slower, lower, weaker, really, where Bristol City are concerned. West Brom dominated the middle of the field. Yokoslu ran the game. Mikey Johnson is an inspired signing for them from Celtic. I think he scored 6 goals in 10 games. And Dean Garner's, a willing runner. They had better players, and they probably looked like they could have gone up a gear and been more comfortable. But City finished the game well. But that's all you can say, really. I think Manning's in-game management again was questionable because he should have made the changes a lot earlier to at least give us a fighting chance of getting a draw. But like I said, West Brom looked like they could have probably gone up a gear and been more comfortable. I think they had the better chances. I mean, the best chance we had, I think the best save that Palmer had to make was from a good strike by Taylor Garner-Hickman. And I think I said this after I returned to this. I said this after the game against that team that are in the top 6, whose name I wouldn't mention because it's being used as a stick to bake the manager with. We've won that game, but it's against the poorer teams. That's where the season's been lost, losing to teams, down the bottom. Not against the West Broms where it's predictable, but losing to poorer teams when we can't break them down. So we would have expected to find it difficult to get a point from this game against a team, been fantastic at home. But we got to look back and think the games that we've lost to poor teams is really where the season's gone. And I don't think we're going to see much change between now and the end of the season. We got players missing. Williams again. We didn't expect James to be back. We saw a bit from Tanner. Can't really judge him on that. Saw little flu flashes from Twine. Same thing. He's been out for 8 or 9 games. So we got a break now, and we got to hope and pray. So get your prayer mats out and your worry beads that we put in a performance against Leicester, because it's going to be tough until the end of the season.
It could be, to coin a phrase,
we're going to limp to the end of the season, Dave, aren't we?
It could be a long Good Friday. Cue the.
I've been there. I've done it.
Yeah, you've done that. You did that. I bet you did that on Radio Bristol before doing this. Ian, surprise, surprise, we named a full bench for the first time in a while, and it had Meerholtz on there, and also good to see him sign a contract this week. Is it Jamie Knight-Labelle? Yeah, he was there. Twine on the bench. Surely you start your best player. You don't want to bring a player on that maybe when you're chasing the game 2-0, which is what he did. What were your thoughts on the lineup? And as we say, it sort of picks itself. And without Williams and James, obviously, the midfield is weaker. Although I think I'm right in saying Knight played slightly deeper, did he, than of late? What were your thoughts on the team, Ian?
No, I don't think Knight did. I mean, King played back there, if you want it, in the Williams role. TGH played next to him. So, and that's the other thing I don't like. I don't like Knight playing is that quasi second striker when we're defending in a 4-4-2 shape. I really don't like it. If you're going to do that, stick Naki there and move Knight back one if you want to be more attacking. Personally, I would have. No, I mean, if you're talking about players out and players who can play central midfield, and I actually prefer him there. Cal Naismith is also out, so is Joe Williams.
Well, you mean a sick note? Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, there's people laughingly suggesting to me, saying, "Well, we need to sell him." Oh, yeah, right, because I'm sure they're going to be queuing round the block to sign Cal Nays. How many games you played last year, Cal? Well, it's 15. What, out of 50? Yeah. Right. So forget that. But yes, that's what I'm talking about there, the medical being so key, because we've had this problem. It undermined Nigel Pearson. At one point during his first bit of the season, when he replaced Dean Holden, we had 21 players injured. So did it get better when Dave Rennie came in? Yeah, but it never really got down to the point where we had less than 4 injured, most times 6. Nigel Pearson, there was 12 injured when he lost to Cardiff, and that was his last game.
Yeah. Getting back to today, talking about today's lineup.
Today,
would you have started Scott? Scott Twine's been brought here on loan, right? Abude was brought in as well. He's not had any minutes worthy of the name, but surely you start with one of them.
The simple answer to your question is yes. I would have started Scott Twine, and I would have been more attacking and started him in a 10. In terms of Abude, I don't think you can judge him till you see him play on the right wing, and I'd like to see him get some minutes there before the end of the season. And he is a young player, so we could pick him up for nothing. We think he's really, really promising. Then why not do that? But the other players will be available. But our board, if they decide Liam Manning is the man, and I'm not saying he does, and to be honest, a few years ago I went past Karen, who was manager of the club. I really did. And you're looking at a bloke who was campaigning for Nigel Pearson before Lee Johnson got the job. But I don't care who the manager is anymore. I really don't. If our board think he's their man, and I'd be really disappointed with them if they said, well, actually, he's not our man, but he was 4 months ago. If they're his man, they have got to give him what he needs in the summer. If not, move him on. But yeah, I play more attacking. I play Scott Twine as a 10, and I drop Jason Knight back.
Yeah. And he had the opportunity. You said he didn't drop Jason Knight back, but he had the classic opportunity to play Knight deeper with Twine on from the start. And then if he runs out of steam after 60 minutes, c'est la vie. You still got Wells on the bench that you can bring on and push Tommy. But there's lots of things you can do. Mark, what were your thoughts on the team when you saw that when you saw it named at 2:00?
Well, I think with Andy, bringing Andy King in for the probably injured Joe Williams, you needed something to hit West Brom with. So I don't know why you didn't play Scott Twine in there, because really you haven't got a lot else to hurt them. He would have been something different in that pocket to play in the forwards, and we really need something, because there's just no supply to the front 1 or 2, or do we play a 3? I don't know. Anybody help? Because there's just there's no supply to the forwards, because what we find is when we do get into goal scoring positions, we usually lose the ball quite easily, when we go round the side, and try get crosses in, because there's none of our forwards go near post, going across defenders to take the ball early. They've really got to have lots of they've really got to have a lot of open fields, a lot of space in front of them to run into. To have clear-cut chances, because we don't really work a lot of opportunities in open play. We're just not doing it. So yeah, I just don't know why he didn't play Twine. Try and get in front early. I mean, like we did against Ipswich, play with a block, but create some chances, do something. It was just all a little bit passive. It was very passive, very soft, and that's the problem. If you don't create some pressure, it makes it easier for a team like West Brom just to score out of nothing, and that's what they did.
Absolutely. I'll stick with you for the first goal, and then I'll come to you for the second one here. Mark, I didn't see the first goal. Talk us through it. What happened? I have heard Manning's press conference where he was talking to things prior to the immediate incidents around the goal. So he's almost like doing a replay from the phase of play 20 seconds previously, rather than the assist or lack of positioning. But was that an avoidable goal, the first one, Mark?
Yeah, because there were so many players behind the ball, it was ridiculous. I think there may have been a foul in the middle of the pitch from a City player, and so the game the game was allowed to continue. But Mikey Johnson gets the ball on the left-hand side, and he comes across the box, probably beats 2 or 3 players who are afraid to tackle him. And then Nicoslu's on the D. He works it across to Tom Fellows, who's just been called up for England under 21. And Aidan Roberts just backs off. He's probably about 2 yards away with his hands down by his side. You know, the usual scared of getting of conceding the penalty. Fellows works it onto his left foot. Max looks like he wants to dive right, but Roberts puts no pressure on him, so he works it onto his left. So he's given Max the eyes, and he hits it into the right side of the goal. Max is left. Now, Dean Garner looks like you can't see from the lines because it's in the wrong angle, but Max is slightly unsighted. But because he's gone right, once he sees Fellows go to his left, then he's diving forward with his feet and he misses the ball. But I think even if Dean Garner's not offside, really, Max is unsighted. He's directly in his line of sight. I mean, in the Premier League, it's VAR, and the goal could be disallowed. But it's such a poor goal to concede, David, because there are so many players behind the ball. You shouldn't be scoring a goal like that. Somebody's got to make a tackle.
Time of the game, because you've done the hard stuff in the opening.
It was right. Minutes. It was right near half time. Roberts, just go up to the guy, just slow him down. Don't give him a chance to go onto his left foot. Make him work the ball wide again, and then you can get players behind the ball to make the block. It was just a shocking piece of defending. But I think Dean Garner's probably unsighted Max as well, and borderline offside. But we're clutching at straws, really. Well, it was just such a pathetic piece of defending. It makes you want to scream.
Yeah. Ian, we start the second half, and we've had a annoying habit a few times not coming out at the start of the second period, and you're 1-0 down at half time with a hill to climb. You go 2-0 down, it's a mountain. I've seen it. I have seen that one on my phone. I was at Stafford Services. It looked a mess from what I could see. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. It was a poor goal to concede because of the guy that ran at the goal was in an awful lot of space in midfield, got the ball with his back to goal, turned and went on a run. Guy goes past him overlapping, does what we don't do and gets in a position where he can put in a telling cross. And both our defenders aren't marking their players coming in. They're running back towards the goal line. And which makes it easy for the guy to just place his shot. I mean, you've got to. I can understand get back on the goal line, try to block it, but you'd be better off marking the guy because then you might be able to kick it away. Because from the position he was in, he was never going to shoot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very disappointing, and at that point, we should have got the subs on the field.
Well, it's interesting, Ian. Just stick with you on that point because again. Somebody put it on the text feed earlier, and I think he said afterwards, we didn't react at the start of the second half. And there's a couple of people that put on there, he didn't react, right? And when he did, a triple substitution, maybe he thought he was Kieran McKenna, but when he did, it was probably 10 minutes too late. Is that what you're saying, Ian? Yeah. And were they the right substitutions at the wrong time?
No, the substitutions were okay. I mean, the players aren't that great. And if they all, apart from Twine, if they all left the club in the summer, I wouldn't be surprised. And I particularly wouldn't be disappointed, providing the ones that we bring in are better. We were 2-0 down at that point, whether it was a good goal, a bad goal, or an indifferent goal. We were 2-0 down. And that was the point at which to make those substitutions and go really positive. Because when we made the subs, we created a lot of I wouldn't say clear-cut opportunities, but we created some half chances. We hit the bar a couple of times. Like Mark said, TGH put in a decent shot. It was a bit close to the middle of the goal, but he hit it well. And I also think it was a savable, good savable height. But I'm not, my view's dead simple. It's we haven't got the team to beat we haven't got the players to beat those teams on a regular basis. We might beat them irregularly.
Well, you mean
But
like
obviously,
we did with Southampton?
yeah, well, like we did with, yeah, but that's getting tiresome, Dave. I mean,
I
that league.
know. It's quite funny though, isn't it? I know you had a little
It's
pop
just,
at
oh,
me on.
that is Southampton. John Lansdowne said Frankfurt. Oh, shut up, for Christ's sake. Um, no, we haven't got the players to consistently compete with those teams, and we just haven't. Even if if the squad was fully fit, we'd have more of a chance. Yeah, and if I was leading and wanted to close out a game, isn't it great if you can bring players like Naismith and James on to hold in midfield? But we can't.
No.
So, but we got to get in the lead first. And that means we got to score some goals. So what he's got to do is find a way of getting the ball in the net.
Yeah.
And none of our strikers are scoring regularly. Now we brought in Twine because neither the previous manager or Liam Manning said, I want this big, rough, tough centre forward or a more mobile guy. When they had the opportunity, they were happy with the strikers they had, but they wanted people that could create chances. And that's why we brought Mehmeti in, right? And Mehmeti's not doing it.
Neither's Cornick. Neither's Cornick.
He plays well for 5 minutes in a game.
Not good enough.
Or he might have a good game, 1 in 8 or something like that. And and the same with Cornick. You know, yeah, he runs about a lot when he comes on, and he's a bit busy and he's okay, but he ain't going to get you a ton of goals, is he?
No,
so you know, that's where the problem lies in 2 areas: one, creating them; second, scoring them.
All right, Mark, what were your thoughts there? Well, the timing of the substitutions and the substitutions themselves, yeah, because it was like for like again, really, wasn't it? Which he's always accused of doing.
Yeah, I just want to go back to the goal because I think that shows the chasm between the two teams, because Koslu got the ball in their half. You know, he's behind the halfway line. He hits the ball hard with his left foot, and Johnson's already moving. This is a confidence for a team in the top 6 moving together as a unit, and then he just rolls the ball to Connor Townsend, who's the left back, who's galloped down the left wing, and then of course you bring the players up into the box. They're lining up. We need to pick up one of them, but like Ian said, we're guarding the line instead of watching the players coming in, and it's just a tap in for Jed Wallace. I mean, if he doesn't get it, there are a couple of players behind him.
I could have scored that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just rolled across, but it's because Johnston moves into that position. He's playing the left of the 3 in a 4-2-3-1, picks the ball up, but Townsend makes that move. And where the difference between them and us was when we get the ball, we put our foot on it and play the ball back. It's all first time passing, confident pass, move, support. You know, the man on the ball with players in the box. You know, pack the box and score a goal. Easy. We just don't do that, and we take too many passes, or we kill the ball because we're not confident to get the ball in the box. But when we do get the ball, let on the flanks, there's not enough players in the box to do it, or play the ball back. Because if you play the ball back, you cut the defenders out. But with the substitutions, just too late. We looked far better.
I'll ask Ian the same question. What about the 2 substitutions with 5 minutes to go of swapping out the 2 subs? It was a bit unimaginative, wasn't it? And
I think you know, is it just the players' appearance money then? It doesn't really do a lot. You know, we're chasing the game. We're not likely to get two goals late. And I thought Cam Pring looked quite sharp when he was going forward. He chopped the ball back really well from the sideline and beat Furlong. I think it was left on his backside and was unlucky not to follow it up. And we won a corner where I think we hit the bar. So we looked fairly good. Tanner didn't look so good on the right. I think he'll need some games, but that was the difference. They looked far stronger going forward than we did. Defended okay, and that probably wasn't one of their better games at home. But we're just so passive, so soft. I think the only hard things that you could say in that game, I think Garner Hickman put in a few tasty challenges. But really, there were just not
Gardner
a lot
Hickman,
to say.
who we all saw at Cheltenham, although he didn't do a Luke Ayling, did he? He looked very smart in his.
I won't go back about that.
He looked very smart in his double-breasted suit with a young filly on his arm for most of the arm. I'm surprised. You obviously didn't see
you-
that in the paper,
can you-
Ian, because you're keeping a
Can
very
you say?
straight face.
Can you say
No.
that these guys?
No, not remotely.
David
not
wasn't
remotely
referring to a
interested in
horse
horse
either.
racing. Not remotely interested in horse racing. Although apparently at the moment, if you want to scrap, you all go there. You can have one, can't you? I saw some brawling on the internet. It was a load of blokes and women running around in their Sunday best, rolling about on the floor and booting each other, which is it's. No, I thought the two subs, that was okay. He might have wanted to give him minutes on the pitch. We know Cam's carrying an injury.
Yeah.
And I thought George Tanner was fine when he came on, and I hope he comes back, because I prefer him right back to Ross McCrory.
Yeah.
So
and on that point, Ross McCrory, Mark, I'll come to you after, but Ian first. You defended him, Mark. What's the story, Ross McCrory? When he was coming back, it was this £2 million player that's finally going to make it for us. And he was signed as a specialist right back, which is where he's been played so far. And I'd agree with you, Ian, that George Tanner, that's his shirt when he's fit every day at the moment. Is this another north of the border signing that's gone wrong, or realistically, is it his health? He's not firing on all cylinders. We're not going to see the best of him this season.
I think. Oh no, I don't think you will see the best of him this season. Having said that, he's not a bad player. I don't know whether he'd be better off on one side of a three or possibly in holding midfield. I don't know. But I think the fact that George Tanner, if George is fit enough to start, I'd be using Ross McCrory from the bench.
All right. Would you consider using Ross McCrory, thinking about assuming maybe Williams or James, neither of them are fit or doubtful? Would you push Ross McCrory into the middle alongside Jason Knight?
It's a bit. Well, you might push him into the middle alongside Taylor Gardner-Hickman, but I think
three. You could have those three.
From what I understand, Matty James and Joe Williams will be fit to play Leicester. So I think Matty James is one of those players that you don't notice. He's a bit like Cole Scouse to be. You don't notice how good he is until he's not doing it.
Yeah.
So it might be it's his old club, Leicester. So I think you could see him in Joe Williams back and Taylor Gardner-Hickman on the bench. I think you could see George playing right back. Yeah. I'd love to see us go with two strikers and just play one holding midfield player, but I can't see Liam Manning doing that against Leicester. I think better than what he does now. I think he'd be better off going a 4-5-1 and making it more solid, having three in the midfield, playing Knight as an 8, not a 10, and then try and manipulate the ball, press more, get on the front foot, get some crosses in, and score some goals.
Who do you play as your one in that format, Ian?
I think I persist with Tommy. I don't think he's having a great time, but as I say, I think 50% of that's down to him, and I think 50% of it is down to service, and that's been the same since we had the WSM. That's been the same for Bristol City Football Club, irrespective of who the manager was.
The other week, we got to forget about the past, and we have got to look to the future. And the future, Mark, is against a background of here we are. Liam had 4 cup games, and we played really well in those. The 2 games against West Ham, and both games against Forest, and we are unlucky not to beat Forest. It went to penalties. So take those 4 games, right? But here we are with 8 games to go, right? We've lost 5 out of the last 6, and his record now, somebody put on the forum, 23 games played, half a season, 26 points. It's a results business. It's also an entertainment business. Neither of those boxes are being ticked at the moment, are they, overall? And picking up on Ian's point that we beat Watford, we beat Middlesbrough twice, and we beat Watford away, and we beat Southampton, and la. And don't get me wrong, pre-Christmas it was looking decent, but we're in a bit of a pickle at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah, I think the problem was the same when Pearson was manager, is that we can't break down teams who defend deep. We had exactly the same problem. We've had the same problem for seasons, but his in-game management has been poor in places. We should have got at least a point against Millwall and Norwich if we just seen the game out, and we conceded poorly there. In game management again against Preston, we could have got a draw up there. Changed tactics. I know it's easy to say, but we were competitive for a long time. But our problem is just scoring goals. But I think unless the club are prepared to say we made a mistake, then I think the director of football would have to get the bullet, because he would have been a major stakeholder in that appointment, because the de facto owner's son's not going to leave the club, so somebody would have to bite the bullet. You'd have to have a scapegoat.
I don't necessarily think
what happens then?
They don't necessarily have to bite the bullet per se. Ian, I'll ask you.
But you have to rip it up and start again.
Well, you have
again,
to
David, won't you? You've got to.
I mean,
like I said, you want to back or sack the manager, make a decision. But I think, what's the point in what do you do? Do you want to change now? We lost 5 out of 6, which, if in certain circumstances, if you were Watford, you'd be sacking the manager. Or some teams like Sunderland, they changed the manager twice this season.
Yeah,
but he hasn't made any change to their form.
No. And that's noticeable. That's noticeable.
But what do you do? There's no easy solutions, and we don't make great appointments.
I mean, Nigel didn't help himself. We know that. And when he made comments like, "Well, you need to go and ask somebody else," right? And I said on this podcast consistently over the last few weeks that Liam Manning is the stick that the fans are using to beat the board with for their decisions. Somebody put a very good post on OTIB this week, and it cited 3 things that can happen. And one of them we stated on here, which was how they packaged Pearson's departure. And there were 2 other things, right? And if they need anybody at the club at the moment, it is somebody on the PR side, or somebody that can say, look, let's try and address the fans. And Ian, do you think it would be apposite? I think that's the right word. If the chairman, and somebody was saying this on Radio Bristol tonight, if John Lansdowne came out and said, put his hands up and said, look, this isn't going as well as we would have hoped, right? And people will give him a lot more respect for that, rather than the bunker mentality and everybody piling in on Brian Tinian. And I don't know, I've never worked with Brian, but whenever people pile in on Brian Tinian, they go on about shit manager and all the rest of it. And I always say, and I said it to him at Senior Reds, you missed the playoffs by 1 season, Brian, whereas your managerial career is defined by the 7-1 defeat at Northampton. So don't you think... Swansea. Sorry, I was there. Northampton.
You're thinking 1982.
Ian, do you think that it would be good for Manning if the board came out, by the board, John Lansdowne, and said, look, this could be going better, right? But he's still our man. Is it the dreaded vote of confidence? And we're going to give him what he wants in the summer, and it would take the pressure off. A bit like Richie Sunak, he should have come out and said about what that bloke said earlier.
Rishi Sunak. Well, if you want to talk about Rishi Sunak,
no, I don't want to talk about politics. I'm just talking
in a position where he could give everybody £1 million and they still wouldn't vote for him. Look,
I just want to talk. What you want to do?
All right, let me answer the question.
Answer the question.
Answer the question. The communication improved radically after everybody complained about how Pearson's sacking was handled. It's gone back as bad as it's ever been. Now, as you know, Gavin Marshall agreed with me that he'd come on this podcast, and we were going to talk to him about the accounts. With this, can't get hold of the bloke, gone dark. Right, so we tried. Right now, I'm not saying he has to come on here, but he could go on Radio Bristol. And there's questions around the appointment. Perhaps go on there with John. There's questions around the appointment. I'd like to know more about why it's taken so long to replace David Rennie, because it doesn't seem to me that was a planned change. It couldn't have been, because it's taken 5 months to replace the guy, and he's still not replaced. And that position's vital. Now, they should come out. Yes, in answer to your question,
Yes.
if they come out and give him the dreaded vote of confidence, Liam Manning will probably think, Jesus Christ, I'm on my way here. And I don't think that'll do him or the team any good. But if they came out and said, yeah, it's not going as well as we want, and we thought we'd do a lot better. So at the end of the day, I think the communication from the club needs to go up, really go up a level, and they need to get out and talk to the fans and tell. But do the Radio Bristol interview. You could say what you like about Tinian. At least he had the cojones to go on Radio Bristol and answer. And for Radio Bristol, I'll give them their due. It was a reasonably tough interview, I thought.
No, it was.
And he said, yeah, it's not going as well as we want. But he also said Liam needs time. Now, if we have, let's say, and bear in mind that Tinian is technical director, not director of football, and he's in charge of the academy and recruitment, right? The recruitment team. A guy called Sean Gillespie reports to him as head of recruitment. Yeah. So that's where he gets involved. So really, he doesn't pick the team. He has nothing to do with picking a team, and he would have nothing to do with sacking Liam Manning. That's a 3-person decision. You've got Gavin Marshall, John Lansdowne, and I'm always happy if the club want to come on here and say, hang on a minute, Ian, you've got that wrong. We'll correct it. And obviously Steve Lansdowne. And Steve Lansdowne's also the guy who's going to have to sign off the budget if Manning goes in and says, right, okay, I've had a good look at the team over the last 6 months. I know what I want and what I don't want. Right, I want these guys out, and these are the players that I want in, and I need you to fund that. And then the board need to be clear. And what they do, and this is something Nigel Pearson was the best I've ever seen at, is manage expectations.
Well, he managed everybody's expectations over a number of years down. Let me ask Mark the same question.
But that's what I want to see.
That's what you want to see.
You imagine people give, all right, John Lansdowne came out and said, we've got a top half wage bill, and I think we should be heading for the top 6, right? And everybody repeats that ad nauseum. But what was he meant to say? Look, hands up, this lot are crap. But honestly, if we can get through to the end of this season, we'll shove them out. We'll get rid of them. We'll get rid of them all, and we'll bring in some more players. But that's what we're doing. He wasn't going to rubbish. Look,
he was trying. Whatever he had to say. Whatever he had to say.
Was he right? No, I don't think he was right.
No, Ryan Weeks.
Apart from the top half wage bill.
Yeah, Ryan Weeks has said on the text here, quite right, that he set Manning up with some of his loose talk, and his loose talk was linked to getting rid of a manager in a shabby fashion. Mark, what do you think about club communications? Yeah, and we'd have more respect for John Lansdowne if he came out now and said, look, we've got this wrong. And equally, I'll come back to Ian on that one as well. You've worked in working life where you've seen somebody come in, right, and they interview well, and sometimes you take somebody that's inexperienced, and I've seen it happen in my job when people get recruited, and what you've hired ends up being different to how that person came across at interview. So comms, and do you think they are feeling inwardly disappointed with Manning based on the bigging up persona that they painted about him?
Yeah, I think they are. I mean, they need to do something because season ticket renewals are out this week, aren't they? So how do you market that at the moment based on results?
Well, you stick a picture of Alan Dix on the advert, and so people like me can remember. Oh God, yeah, we were in the top flight.
Well, you might as well send a video link. And put Barbara Streisand on singing The Way We Were as well. We can all start crying properly, can't we?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think ideally every club wants better communication. It's usually very unlikely. I mean, what's happened before when the club had done really performed really badly, especially under Lee Johnson, is I think I can remember an interview with Steve Lansdowne. Suddenly, on from Guernsey, he did it on the BBC. So, he comes in. John's unlikely to say something, but somebody's got to say, it's got to say something positive. But I just think it's really unlikely. When they made the Manning appointment, it looks like they looked across at Ipswich and said, we want a coach's coach, somebody who's more by the book, who's a head coach, a textbook. Who can we recruit? Looked at Liam Manning, who performed well for Oxford, who's come up that way, and that's who they want. Who
But
was
he'd done it.
available?
His track record of, I'll call it managerial experience, was limited to the extreme. Yeah, he didn't
But
have.
he's not been out of his depth in terms of results. He certainly hasn't performed really well. But we've only lost 2 games by more than 1 goal. He's just had the same problems as the previous manager, who, remember, the board didn't want. The board were never going to renew Nigel Pearson's contract, rightly or wrongly. They didn't like the guy. They didn't want to continue with him. So all they did was brought his contract to a close 8 months quicker than it would have been. Rightly or wrongly, I don't think it was handled very well, but that was the situation. But what they've done badly is, of course, by doing that, the new person has got to perform better. He hasn't. Are they going to hold their hands up and say we made a mistake? Very unlikely. You're asking the owner's son to do that. He's not going to do it.
No.
Brian Tinnion's gone on Radio Bristol. He said things that people aren't going to agree with. He's not going to say, "Well, we've been absolutely crap." He's going to look for the good things. All the references to that game against the top 3 side. Of course, he's going to do that, but he's not going to hold his hands up and say we're absolutely crap. So we're left with the fact you either back Liam Manning. You're going to need to change quite a few players, because if you want to make a challenge. But if I was John Lansdowne, I'd have a bit of a filter. Don't say things that you think are going to please the fans, when all you're doing is paint a target on the manager's back.
Or go out
the
and
players you haven't got,
get another
they're not good enough to play front foot football.
No.
You could say,
Sorry, Mark, finish what you said.
you could say you've got a manager, we think he's going to perform better. We'd like to play front foot football, but we realise that we might be limited in our ambitions to do that this season.
Yeah.
Because he's just carried on from where Nigel was and just said, "Look, we've got a top 6 squad." We didn't. We sold Alex Scott
and Antoine Semenyo, who scored 2.
Yeah, I mean, he's become a better player since he left, because he's channeled all the talents, and somebody's coaching him brilliantly, and he's playing a lot better. But don't come out, John. Don't say stupid things you think are going to get the fans on side.
What point I was trying to make. That's why they brought in Phil Alexander, who was a seasoned chief exec. But dare I say it, and I said this at the time, when you look at what Phil Alexander's strengths were, it was not on the football side.
No, it was on the commercial side.
Commercial. Right?
Well, the senior Reds 2 I went to, that's what he said.
He was awful. He was absolutely awful at that. He said absolutely nothing.
Well, no, all he said, but what he did say was that, he was very good at advertising and sponsorship. Clearly, he was a commercial man.
And it's a lot easier doing commercial deals.
Exactly. That's what he likes. So there was a mistake made somewhere, and God knows what happens there. But that was a right mess as well, wasn't it?
Ian, Brian Tinian made it clear in his interview on Monday that they more than likely, if I interpreted it correctly, more than likely be going abroad for this so-called forward. It looks like Seb Palmer-Holden's coming back in. I read in one posting that somebody put on social media that Liam, to get the players he wants, is going to have to sell Tommy Conway. Well, Tommy wants to leave anyway. Cam Pring, somebody might come in for Pring, although he's not hit his form. And even Jason Knight, those 3. I think your answer to this question would be would you give Liam Manning money to spend? And I think you'd answer that yes. But how much, and how much is needed to spend to make a difference? So just chuck some numbers around there.
Well, what you'd have to look at, yes. Do I think Tommy will be here? No, because if he was going to be here, I think he'd have signed a new contract by now. But I think the young man needs to be very careful, because if he goes to Scotland, I think he'll get some first team football. And the clubs the only ones that could afford him would be Celtic and Rangers.
Yeah.
With his surname, I'm guessing Celtic would probably be more to his liking.
Yeah.
But it's a question of, look, Manning and Tinian aren't stupid. They're not going to say, well, the first thing we got to do is go out and get Kevin De Bruyne. But what they could do that would be cleverer than what we've done in the past on some occasions is bring in some quality loans. Now, Twine's been unlucky. They got that injury. Mabude, we haven't seen, so I don't know exactly what's going on there. He's not injured, certainly. So that could be a way of, if you will, funding it without paying out millions and millions and millions of pounds. But I think they'll be in a situation where they say, well, the money that's coming in, the instalments for Semenyo and Scott, you'll get that, plus whatever we get for Tommy Conway. Everybody at the club's for sale. That's the same with every championship club. If somebody comes in with the right bid, even the parachute clubs, they always have to sell their best players when they got relegated. Leicester sold 2 for a combined total of 82 million. Then the Premier League, being what the Premier League are, gave them another 42 million in parachute money. And when Leicester get promoted, as they probably will, they're going to get a points deduction because of a problem they had in their last season in the Premier League, trying to buy their way out of it. So it never goes away. First of all, they got to decide, is he the man? Is he the man that they want to do it? Based on what they've seen, based on what they hear. Obviously, Brian Tinian will have an opinion, but I wouldn't think he'd be very unlikely to say, well, I don't think he's the man. I don't think he's the I don't think he's the man. I think he's we should get rid. And when I hear names like Rowett, what was it somebody said to Matt Withers the other day? Alan Kirbishley? That was one that somebody said to Matt Withers.
I don't think.
So I don't. You talk about getting an experienced manager. Well, we had one. And if his job was keeping us in the division and getting the club on an even keel, I'll give him his due. I think he did a decent job of that, Nigel Pearson. If his job was winning games and playing entertaining football.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
Apart from when we had the WSM in full flow, and it was great to it was great as they created a lot of their own chances.
All right.
Now that's something that good forwards at our club have done for years. I remember Brooker, Lita, players like that. I would say that they will definitely give him money to strengthen.
All right, well, let's see.
He's going to have to work within the budget of what he's got. But if they look more, abroad, they might get value. People say, "Oh well, Loic Dione," and I say, "Well, yeah, Famara Zizou, Jonathan Kodja, Thomas Callas." I know he came from an English club, Callas, but he's a Czech international.
And Horder Magnusson wasn't that bad, to be fair. And if you go back,
well, Nicholas Eliasson, we never made the best use of. So there's value out there to be had.
Okay.
So I mean, but the first decision above everything else is Liam Mann, because don't forget, at the end of the day, he is the guy that says from the list of players the recruitment team come up with, firstly, he'll know his own. For example, if he wants to go and get, what's the lad's name at Oxford, a midfield player, Cameron Brannigan?
Yeah.
If he wants to get him, he'll bring him like possibly Twine, like Nigel Pearson did with Danny Simpson, Andy King and Matty James.
Yeah.
So there'll be players he knows, but then it'll be a case of, here's 5 mobile centre forwards. Give us an order of what you want them in, because we think we can get them for what we've got to spend.
Well, that's the key thing. So can I stop?
The wrong bloke to make the decision. Otherwise, you're going to come in, say you got rid of him, you're going to come in and he's already had the summer.
Well, if you get rid of him, if he has a bad start,
if you then get rid of him, you've got a new bloke coming in. He's got Nigel Pearson's players, Liam Manning's players. He still might have one that was originally signed by Dean Alden. So they've got to make their minds up what they want to do. I don't think they will sack him, but only time will tell if that's the right decision.
Mark, Dave Febb's put on there, and this is a number that I always agree with. A decent player who's better than what we've got is £2 to £5 million. Well, £2 to £4 million at championship level. Yeah, if we sell Conway, Pring, maybe somebody puts in a cheeky bid for night, but let's say Conway and Pring at the moment. If we got £8 million for the pair of them, we'd be doing really well based on their current form. Yeah. Do you think, rather than hold their hands up and say this isn't going quite so well, they will throw an 8-figure sum, excluding wages, into the transfer pot come 1st of July when all the players are out of contract, ready for next season? Or do you think if Liam wins only 2 of the last 8 games of the season, that decision will be left, and they may not even let him spend the money in the summer because they'll still be unsure. We'll be unsure. Mark?
Well, you know what we're led to believe, they probably identified their targets now. I mean, they say they were at one of 2 or 3 windows in advance, don't they? To identify players that are available. But I think they look at championship players who are out of contract because they be within their wage range. They certainly look lower down at leagues 1 or 2, or look abroad where you can pick up bargain players. If you look at the likes of Gustavo Hamer, who was playing in the second level in the Netherlands, and Joel Pirro as well. For 1 or 2 million, so you could get a handful of players, 1 to 2 million, like I think, like Dave said, you could get a few of those rather than 1 or 2 big signings, which I don't think we're going to do anyway. I think that's at the top end, and I think we'd only go for Scott Twine if he was available for a couple, 2 to 3 million, 3 million maximum. And at the moment, he's probably reducing his market value because he's not being playing many games. So I think we could look at a number of players at that level, 1 to 2 million. Players who are out of contract. Then really, I think if you want to really have a go, you've got to back that up with loan signings. I think you need to make 6, possibly 7 signings in the summer. There's a few players you need to clear out. Some who aren't at the end of their contract. Conway's going to go, Pring possibly, but I can only see Pring and Conway featuring for a club that's gone down, that's got a bit of parachute money, or somebody who hasn't gone up, because they're not good enough to play in the Premier League. They're just not good enough. So we'll have to wait and see. But it does come back to, will they back the manager or sack him?
And
I said, the targets would have been identified by now, who are those who are at the end of their contract or are available in the lower leagues. We don't know. I mean, I think Dave Fev said, what's our European scouting network like? Anybody know? Because I don't. In terms of who is our European scout? Is it oh God, is it Khalifa? Is it Khalifa? Khalifa Cisse? Is it him? I don't know.
No. All right. Okay. No, I mean, look, I think you said about loans, Ian said about loans as well, and we used to berate Nigel when he was here for not wanting, quote, to develop other clubs' players, when all the other successful clubs in the seasons that he was here were all doing well with 2 or 3 loan signings, and they wouldn't go amiss, and that could make the difference.
And they're doing it again. Ipswich are doing it. Hull are doing it. It's risky.
Yeah, Hull have gone for it.
Because if Hull don't get in the playoffs, or they don't win through, that's costing them a lot of money. I mean, that lad they got from Liverpool was costing them 50 grand a week. So I don't think for a second that our board are going to sanction anything like that.
I totally agree with you.
I look back and remember Tammy Abraham. I mean, without Tammy Abraham in Lee Johnson's first full season, we'd have been relegated as sure as eggs is eggs. So and when we look at it, and we've been critical of the owners on the pod, I've been critical of the board for not coming on here when they said they would. It'd be different if they said, look, we're not coming on there. Just one quick one, we don't want the people that are at Sheffield Wednesday and Reading and people like that. And I'm not saying every new owner would be like it, but one thing Lansdowne's always said is when he sells, and he'd sell the club tomorrow if they found the right people, is that he'll make sure it's somebody that's, if you like, got the best interest of the club at heart as well as he possibly can. But even then, that guy buys a club and they might run into difficulties and they might sell it to somebody who hasn't got the best interest.
Yeah.
So I think just need to be a little bit careful what we wish for. The other thing is, quick one on season tickets. Richard Gould came and spoke to us at the Senior Reds, and he was talking about the season tickets and renewals, and they were worried because it was about, well, when Gould was in here, because I think was he only in a season or so?
18
but when he was in here, he came in and said, what we're concerned about is we've had 3,000 people not renew their season tickets, but the really worrying bit is 1,700 of those people had a season ticket for 7 years or more. So when people say, well, people might not renew their season tickets, every year people don't renew their season tickets.
Yeah.
And I've got nothing else to say about what they've done with pricing. It's an emotive subject, and it depends where you are in the ground. But I just wanted to make that point that it's not. I'm perfectly happy with what mine's gone up, given the cost of living crisis.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with
the
that.
club are suffering from the same as we all are.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I just think the empty spaces, particularly in the South Stand, are going to be noticeable significantly. Interesting what Liam Manning said when questioned after the game today about what are you doing with the players having a break. Personally, I'd be doing it the other way around. He said we're going to train them hard this week, or train them this week. Then they're going to have some time off at the weekend. Personally, just my view, I would say go and take, come back on Wednesday, right? So in other words, take a 4 or 5 day break now and then come back with an intense period of training leading up to Leicester on Good Friday. So that's the next game. Mark and Ian, I'm sure you'll both be with me when we do our review of Leicester, which is a lunchtime kickoff, which we'll probably do at 6 o'clock. Yeah, thanks to everybody that has watched us live. The number I'm seeing here is 343. That's not 343 people, not all watching now, but that's the total number. That could be 340 people that watched it for 2 minutes and saw our ugly mugs and switched off, and 2 or 3 idiots on there that just stick with us all the way through. I'm going off to have a pre-birthday day meal very shortly after I've processed this. But again, thanks everybody, and thanks Mark and Ian for your contribution. And we'll be back very soon, as I say, on Good Friday, reviewing the Leicester game. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yeah, and have a happy birthday tomorrow,
Thank you.
David.
Cheers.
Good night.